Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 789, 789, Wednesday, May 22nd, 2019. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, another big day on TowerGate today, as it has been for the past several weeks now. Almost every day new information coming out. The dam is breaking, and every day it just gets worse and worse for the perpetrators. So let's go ahead and find out what's going on for today. Okay, so as everyone knows, yesterday, late in the evening, unfortunately, after I'd already done my video, I'd already done Tuesday's video when this information hit late Tuesday night, that Doug Collins has released the transcripts from 9 key figures from the House Joint Committee hearings. And they would include the testimonies, the transcripts from Andy McCabe, Get Back, Loretta Lynch, James Rybicki, Trish Anderson, George Toscas, Jonathan Moffa, John Giacalone, Sally Moyer, and Bill Sweeney. That's very interesting. Bill Sweeney was the guy who was the head of the FBI office. I wonder what they wanted to talk to him about in New York, I mean. And if you remember, there was a big flap up. They were trying not to expose the fact that they had all the rotten Reverend Clinton emails on the Wiener laptop. They were trying to sit on that until after the election. But this guy, Bill Sweeney, who was ahead of the group of FBI agents in New York, and especially over the guys at the lab at Quantico, who discovered that, and they were the ones who said, hey, if the FBI main Justice FBI in D.C. does not come out and disclose this, we're going to go public. So this is likely why they wanted to talk to Bill Sweeney, be my guess. So it's going to take probably some time, probably a week or two, because of the amount of data material that was released, before people can get through it all and read it all and make sense of it, compare it to other testimony, and try to find the problems. And you will find many here. And so we're just going to have to wait over the next week or two. I'm sure that every day there'll be more information coming out from the testimonies of these individuals, which will further make the case of what we already know regarding the Trump frame-up and the attempted coup, and much more. Probably a lot more information. Let's not forget, before the Trump coup attempt, all the violations that went on for spying. Let's not forget the larger picture of the Hammer program. Let's not forget the other part of this, which was a big part of the overall crimes, the cover-up of the Clinton email investigation and the things associated with all those emails on Anthony Weiner's computer that still, as far as I know, have not been looked at. So there's a lot here to go through and digest. So there's been a few things come out at this point. We'll talk about those. But it's going to take a week or two probably for reporters to sift through this and find the nuggets that you know are there in relation to all these issues. Devin Nunes on Fox says that the FBI is stonewalling on his request for everything they have on Joseph Mifsud, the professor. He has sent a second follow-up letter to let them know he's waiting. You know, I don't know about you guys, but I've just about had it with No Shit Sherlock Ray. No Shit Sherlock Ray is a problem. I know he's a problem. Most of you know he's a problem. It appears that Trump's now figured out that he's a problem. I wonder when Attorney General Barr is finally going to call Ray into his office and rake him over the coals and basically tell him, look, man, you're obstructing my investigation. You're obstructing Congress. You need to put out, Chris. And if you continue obstructing and blocking, I'm going to recommend to the president that he fire your ass. And I may look into possible charges against you for obstruction of my investigation. Chris? That's what I think. Well, it looks like Jerry Nadler has decided to subpoena Hope Hicks. Jerry Nadler is completely out of control. Again, it's time for the Department of Justice to get involved. This has become an absolute, it's a mockery of what oversight was intended to be. This is clearly an attempt by the Trump derangement syndrome affected Democrats to simply try to keep the president from being able to do his job. And these people he's calling in, they have to go get lawyers who are very expensive. They have to be put through this dog and pony show, have their lives disrupted. They've already been interviewed by Mueller and his people. They've been through all this now for 2.5 years, dragging this poor girl up on in front of the Congress to just browbeat her for the sake of some PR in hopes that they might try to scratch some sort of a nugget out of it so that they can use that to move forward with impeachment. It's obvious what this is. And I know in the long run it's gonna hurt them, and it's probably gonna mean a better chance that we win back the House in 2020. But I just can't stand watching this happen. Nadler has got to be in some way censored. And it certainly isn't going to happen from Pelosi. She's terrified. Madam Botox is terrified of doing anything against the progressive wing of her party. And at some point, you cannot have Congress acting as a force to obstruct the president and keep him away from managing the affairs of the country when there is no actual crimes. There's no reason to call Hope Hicks or anybody else. There's no predicate crime for any of this. It's an excavation operation. It's a witch hunt. Calling everybody Trump knows and just harass them, and then try to get every document you can from Trump or anyone who knows him, just to try to see if you can find anything, just for the purpose of having hearings, even if you know there's no hearing there, or no crime there. I mean, this is clearly a serious abuse of power by a committee chairman in the Congress. And the DOJ, being an equal branch of government along with the executive branch, needs to censor in some way, in a pretty serious way, Nadler. I mean, if I'm Barr, I would send him a letter and let him know, if he persists, that I'm going to consider investigating him for obstruction of justice. He's trying to obstruct Barr from doing his investigation. He's trying to obstruct the president from running the country. His position in the Congress does not give him that authority. If I thought the Republicans would respond accordingly when they got power, I probably would let it go, because I would think, okay, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt. But I have no confidence that would happen. The Republicans are simply not like the Democrats. They don't have the same type of killer instinct, I guess you would say. They're more of get along than go along. And so at some point, this thing has to be, somebody has to put a stop to it. It's not going to come from Pelosi. So it's going to have to come from the judicial branch or the executive branch. Someone is going to have to step in and put a stop to this. That's my opinion. Let's see. Oh, well, it looks like Madam Botox, Pelosi, has scheduled a meeting for 9 o'clock on Wednesday morning, that is today, to discuss the plan for Trump's impeachment. Now, there's already reports out that there is a major fight going on behind the scenes. This is sources, and I think these sources are coming from, liberal networks are talking about this, not necessarily Fox. That there's this major fight going on in the Democratic Party behind the scenes because Pelosi and some of the people on her side, even though they would love to impeach Trump, they also understand the political consequences of going through with it, whereas you have these other Democrats, the far left progressive types, who really don't care about the consequences for the overall party in the next election. They're only concerned with the people who put them in there, the progressive base that they play to. And if they don't deliver to their progressive base impeachment on Trump, they take it on the chin. On the other hand, if you're like Pelosi and you're over the entire party in Congress, she's more concerned about 2020 and holding on. So, because I don't think there's any difference between Pelosi and the far left wing about wanting to impeach Trump, it's about which is the best political move. Now, in this particular case, Madam Botox is correct. She is correct. But the progressives are too insane to either care or get it. Yeah, if in fact they had an impeachment, let's just say they had an impeachment vote this week, they would get Justin Amash, one Republican. They'd get one Republican who would vote for it. They'd get one Republican and all Democrats, which would be enough to actually move forward with the impeachment. But then it has to go over to the Senate where the trial is actually held. At which point it will be up to Mitch McConnell to decide if there was a legitimate reason to move forward with hearings. And I'm not really sure how McConnell would come down on that, to be honest with you. You know, Twitch, he can go either way, whichever way the political winds are blowing. Now, he's from Kentucky, and I would think that the political winds there would be blowing in a direction that would persuade him to say that to look at it, it's okay, we don't find, even though the House voted, we cannot find where there's any real grounds, any predicate crime, any reason to impeach the president other than for political reasons. And so we're not going to hold any hearings. We're just going to kill it here in the Senate. So that could also happen. Just because the House moves doesn't mean that the Senate has to actually go through with it. They can reject the vote by the House. So what you would end up with is, I think, is at least a 50-50 chance that would happen. And even if McConnell said, okay, we're going to go ahead and have the hearings, that might turn out to be more damaging to Democrats because it's Republicans who control the Senate, and it's Lindsey Graham that controls the main committee that would oversee the hearings. Essentially, Lindsey Graham would be the judge. And therefore, he would be looking at exculpatory evidence, which means he would be calling in Uncle Bob the Executioner, Andrew Weissman, Jenny Rhee, Comey, Lynch, McCabe, Obama. He could call anybody he wanted. It's an impeachment hearing after all. It would be far more destructive to Democrats if the hearings went forward, just because of the way that Lindsey Graham would manage the hearings. He'd say, okay, you want impeachment hearings? Good. We'll have impeachment hearings. And that would probably play into Lindsey Graham's hands. But what would happen is, ultimately in the House, you would have this vote. You would have one Republican, Justin Amash, who's probably not going to be around very much longer. I think he's going to get blown out in 2020 as a result of his ridiculous assertions. So you're going to get all Democrats and one Republican. And that just doesn't look good. It looks like a total political hit job to the average American. When the average American says, oh, here we have the House of Representatives wanting to have impeachment hearings on the president, what does a vote look like? And when they see that it's all Democrats with one guy who's basically claims to be a libertarian, I don't think Justin Amash is. He's certainly not the type of libertarian I am. I don't know what libertarian party he belongs to or what libertarian ideology he subscribes to, but it's not the one that I subscribe to. And I actually used to like Amash. He kind of came in on the coattails of Ron Paul back in, I think, 2012. I think it was 2012. Or maybe 2008. It may have been 2008. But he rode on Ron Paul's coattails on the freedom movement. But if you look at the way he's voted and some of the things he's said and done over the past several years, I've become less and less happy with Justin Amash, and now I just completely don't like the guy at all and would like to see him defeated in 2020 in his re-election bid. And I believe that there's a very good chance that will happen now. So what you would end up with is essentially a completely 100% or 99% partisan vote. And when the average American looks at a House impeachment vote and sees that it's totally a partisan vote, it generally receives no real support. And people say, oh, it's just more Washington politics. You know, generally when you see even in the Nixon or even in the Clinton, you had a number, quite a good number of Democrats who had to admit, yeah, I mean, he lied 11 or 13 times, I think, in his testimony. You kind of have to go for impeachment, you know. Nixon, when the Republicans finally had to go to him and say, look, we can't back you anymore, and even Republicans had to go out and sign on to the impeachment hearing. So when the impeachments are bipartisan and there's enough on the other side that makes it look like, yeah, it's bipartisan, there's probably something there. But when it's totally a partisan effort and it's 99% just one party, you know there's nothing really there, and it looks political as hell, and it would backfire. It would backfire big time. It's a political loser, you know, in both the short term and the long term. I don't really see how it ever would be a winner for the Democrats. I think Pelosi knows that. And that's why it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the progressive wing of her party is able to force her into doing something she knows is fatal. But she may not feel like she has any choice because she knows what's coming. I guess she maybe thinks, maybe she'll be told it's better to go down swinging. ABC News is reporting that sources close to Uncle Bob the executioner, Robert Mueller, is saying that Mueller does not want to testify to Congress because he doesn't want to appear political. He doesn't want to appear political. Really? He doesn't want to appear political. Let's think about that. If he didn't want to appear political, then why did he hire the Hillary donor posse of Trump haters? That appeared to be pretty political to me. Why did he drag out his investigation for 2 years, even though he could have figured out within probably a couple of weeks, if not a couple of days, that the entire Trump-Russia collusion thing was a hoax? Why didn't he uncover the fact that all the evidence that was produced by the FBI was all based on lies? Yet he doesn't want to appear to be political. He walks out the door, and on his way out the door, he drops this part 2 of this Mueller report, where he finds no conclusion. He drops that right on Attorney General Barr, kind of an FU on the way out the door. Now, my guess is that Barr didn't appreciate that. That was totally political. That was to give the Democrats, he couldn't give them collusion, so he gives them an open-ended, fairy tale that they could play around with in this obstruction. That was purely a political move. Yet he's sources close to Uncle Bob the executioner saying he doesn't want to testify in front of Nadler's committee because he doesn't want to appear to be political. That's a complete BS. Nobody's buying that. The reason that he doesn't want to testify is because he's terrified. He's terrified that he's either going to have to tell the truth or lie under oath to cover up his crime. He was an extension of the original crime. I see the coup attempt as being part 1 and part 2. Part 1 with Comey running the show, and part 2 with Mueller having the baton passed to him, and he ran coup part 2. So there you go. Will Nadler follow through and subpoena Mueller and threaten him with fines and jail time if he refuses to testify? Boy, we'll follow that very closely. Okay, some things about the release of the some of these testimonies. The first one we're going to look at a few things from McCabe and Lynch. So page 26 of McCabe's testimony shows that Silly Sally Yates and Loretta Lynch did not recuse themselves from the Right Reverend Clinton email investigation, despite their claims that they did. McCabe said that George Toscas led the email investigation, but he reported to John Carlin, who reported to Silly Sally Yates, who reported to Get Back Loretta Lynch. McCabe says that it was the DOJ, not the FBI, that made the decision to offer the witnesses immunity, including witnesses who lied. We're talking about witnesses. Paul Gambetta lied. And after lying in his questioning under oath, they offered him immunity. Can you imagine going and lying to the cops, especially the FBI, and then after you lied to them, they said, well, we think we're going to go ahead and give you immunity. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure that happens every day. Explain that one. McCabe says that he was involved in the decision with Comey to have the press conference announcing that there would be no charges against the rotten Reverend Clinton. He says he did not discuss the political ramifications of the Clinton case. Oh, man, does anybody believe that? Come on, man. In fact, when Comey was testifying, he was talking about the possible political ramifications. Yet McCabe wants us to believe that that never came up in the discussion? That would be the most important thing that you would be discussing in that discussion. Man, oh man, these people just lie, lie, lie. So, yes, McCabe was caught in many lies in his testimony. We'll be hearing about more of those as the days and weeks unfold. Of course, he says there was no bias. Oh, no, there was no bias. Well, of course, Lisa Page says just the opposite. When she was asked what Peter's been Stoker's meant by, we'll stop him, she said, well, you know, he meant what he said. What he said is what he meant. That's pretty much it. Yep. And if there was no bias that he noticed around the investigation, then why was Peter's been stroking us and Lisa Page kicked off the Mueller team? Why was he kicked? Why was he? Why did Rodenstein, when he appointed Uncle Bob the Executioner, say, no, McCabe? McCabe not allowed to participate. So McCabe himself, along with Strzok and Page, his two close associates, were all biased. So he says there was no bias. Right. So then we have McCabe admitting that Comey did meet with the Department of Justice just an hour or two before the press conference where he exonerated the rotten Reverend Clinton. Now Comey, under oath, said that he did not meet with Lynch or Yates or anyone at the DOJ legal team looking at the rotten Reverend Clinton email investigation, that he did not meet with any of them or consult with any of them prior to making his statement. So here we go. It's you know, James Comey, the dishonorable former director of the Federal Bureau of I'm With Her, he's got a lot of problems. You know, if I'm James Comey and I'm looking at this, I got Clapper out there having a dispute with me. I have Brennan out there having a dispute with me. Now I have Lynch having a dispute with me. I have Rodenstein having a dispute with me. I have Lisa Page having a dispute with me. I have Andy McCabe having a dispute with me. You know, I don't know how smart Jim Comey is or how dumb he is, but you don't have to be very bright to figure out that you might be getting set up as the scapegoat. If I'm James Comey, I'm looking at it and going, looks like I'm being tag teamed. I wonder, do you think they're going to try to make me the scapegoat? Believe it or not, believe it or not, Mr. Potato Head John Brennan briefed the Democrats in Congress on the Iran crisis yesterday, on Tuesday. Oh, man, can you... let's see. Who can we bring in to give us a debriefing on Iran? I know. How about Mr. Potato Head? He's had his security clearance revoked. Maybe they should have brought in John F. Kerry, who, by the way, served in Vietnam. Maybe they should bring in John F. Kerry. He's the one over there conducting diplomacy illegally in violation of the Logan Act. But then, no, they bring in Mr. Potato Head. Yeah, that's a good person to bring in to get get an opinion on what's going on, as if he knows anything about what is going on with Trump's people inside his administration about how they're dealing with Iran. Mr. Potato Head has no idea what the strategy is that they're using to deal with Iran. And he was for the Iran deal. 100% for the Iran deal. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. These people are completely insane. Well, Get Back Loretta Lynch says she did not tell Comey to refer to the rotten Reverend Clinton investigation as a matter. Oh, boy. We'll have to await Comey's next unhinged Twitter response to that one, that's going to be a little tricky because, of course, she is a black woman and a good friend of the chosen one, Barack Hussein Obama. She's a darling of the media. She was his boss. She knows a lot of things. Comey is going to have to tread very, very carefully when he comes out and tries to dispute what she said. But he's going to have to. He can't just leave it out there, because now Lynch has basically said, yeah, I didn't say Comey had to call it a matter. And that's a very important issue, because Comey was under oath at the time when he said. And the reason that the whole question came up, and the reason why it was important, is they were trying to find out in Comey's mind what he thought justified him taking on the role to be the person to come out and exonerate the rotten Reverend Clinton, when that's not what the FBI does. He's not the director or anybody else. They're the investigative body. They turn their work over to the DOJ, and the DOJ makes a decision. But it was Comey who came out and made a decision. And he said he didn't consult with anybody at the DOJ, but now we have McCabe saying he did. And he says one of the reasons, two of the main reasons he says that he felt like he had to do that were one, because of the tarmac meeting, and number two, because of the fact that Loretta Lynch said that you have to refer to this as not an investigation, but as a matter. So it's the context of which Comey and Lynch have this dispute that is important. Now, what's he going to say? Is he going to come out and say Lynch is lying, she did say that? Or is he going to come out and say, well, I guess I must have misheard? Good luck. It looks like to me that everybody's found their scapegoat, and his name is James Comey. It appears now that Carter Page was in contact with Steve Bannon during the transition and even after the inauguration, at the time that he had the FISA on him. What that means is that it's very likely then that the Trump administration and Trump himself were spied on, and likely were some of the unmaskings done by Samantha Power and Susan Rice, and possibly others, maybe Ben Rhodes. So it wasn't just his campaign team and during the campaign. Oh, no. And maybe that's what Nunes was so shocked by. Remember, Nunes has never been able to tell us what he saw in that skiff. But he alluded to the fact that it was literally, I have to go back and watch a press conference, but if I remember correctly, he was rattled, and he couldn't say who by name or even by their stature who it was, but he made it pretty clear it was high-level people associated with Trump, and he's talking about his administration at this time, not even his campaign team, his administration, whose names were unmasked. They had the FISA on Carter Page. The two-hop rule means that they can listen to anyone that Page talked to and anyone that person talked to. And of course we have to assume that Carter Page talking to Bannon, well, Bannon was Trump's right-hand man right after the inauguration, going through the first several months. Which means if they're getting Carter Page, they're getting Bannon. If they're getting Bannon, they're getting Trump. And everyone, the closest people around Trump. And unmask them. Wow. Documents have been requested by Lindsey Graham that will document the effort the FBI made to verify the claims made in the dossier by Steele. He has still heard nothing as far as we know. Yeah, Lindsey Graham said, oh yeah, we would love to see the documents that outline and show us the efforts and measures that you took to verify the dossier. We want to see that. Well, of course, as I've been saying, Graham's not going to get them documents because they do not exist. And how do I know they do not exist? Because they never did an investigation to make any effort to verify the dossier, ever. Because if they would have, here's the reason why. If they would have, they would have discovered what Uncle Bob the executioner discovered. 106 specific claims made in the dossier, and not a single one of them proven. If Mueller couldn't find it, likely Comey and the boys wouldn't have found it. Doesn't exist, because it was all a hoax and they knew it. And they still have to explain why they used Steele and said he was Comey, Yates, and others swore to the FISA court that both Christopher Steele and the dossier were reliable. They swore under oath that they were. They didn't investigate either. And they knew Steele, based on what we know from Kathleen Kavalik and what we know from Bruce Orr, we know that they knew that Steele's information and himself, he was unreliable, as was his information. They knew it when they went to the FISA court. And that's why a lot of these people will be indicted. That's one of many reasons. James Comey, Clapper, Brennan, they're looking at multiple indictments. And I don't know if they're going to get hit with the, the biggie, I guess you would say, which sedition or treason or anything like that. But they're going to be facing a fairly lengthy list of felonies. Yes, they are. It's coming. Almost guarantee it's coming. Too much public information, and there's much more to come. Much more to come. Just a matter of time. And it won't be long. So, I'm thinking about this the other day. I'm driving home from work, listening to Dan Bongino, and I'm trying to decide whether this is poetic justice or irony. It's hard to decide which of the two it is. And what I'm talking about is that when you look at this thing, you had all these people, all these powerful people and powerful organizations, the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, the Treasury, Department of Defense, spies, private intelligence agencies from foreign governments, intelligence assets, the rotten Reverend Clinton, people in her campaign, an entire large swath of the left-wing media, all in cahoots to destroy Trump. All in cahoots to destroy Trump. But in the end, it is now more likely than ever, and I think way better than 50-50, way better than 50-50, that these criminals are going to be brought to justice. Most of them, an awful lot of them. I'm thinking somewhere between 3 dozen and 50. 36 to 50 people will be facing criminal charges. High-level people. Not the, normally it's the high-level people walk and the small people go away. They go away to jail. But not this time. Because what they did, in this particular case, it was the high-level people that ran it all. And they kept it from the normal field-level people. That's why I believe that. But when we get to the bottom of this, if they do a real investigation, and I believe Barr will, and they get the findings out there, and the truth does come out, and these people all are going to be facing criminal charges, if that happens, then what you're going to see is that this original plot by all these powerful forces used against Trump to destroy him, they are going to end up having destroyed themselves in the effort to destroy him. And I just don't know if that's poetic justice or irony. I don't know. I have to look up the definition. But that's going to be the big story at the end of all this. There'll be many big stories, but that's going to be a very sort of overarching theme of this entire thing when it's looked at 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It'll be the long view of everything that happened. Will be the moral of the story here will be that the people who engaged in the horrible, illegal, criminal behavior to try to destroy someone, an innocent person, and many other innocent people around him, they themselves, because of the actions they took, will have destroyed themselves. It will be the things that they did to someone else to destroy them that will end up being the thing that destroyed them, hung by their own petard, essentially. That's going to be the big irony, I think, or the big poetic justice that everyone will be talking about in a long view, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 50 years from now. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow for more TowerGate. You guys have a good day. See you. Bye.